Hi, welcome to Mending the Soul of the Village, the Voices of the Elders. This is a spiritual guidance platform for our future generations. This podcast, has been set up by me, Eartha Love, to bring the voices of the elders to our future generations. It's come from my work of Woman Becoming. Woman Becoming is a platform for working with girls and young women. And it's the work that I do with Hannah, my sister, and we hold mentoring programs for rites of passage work with young women and girls, and we guide women to recreate the village, to create the strong container that's needed to co-create rites of passage for our daughters, for our collective daughters. This work involves a training program called Healing the Maiden, Restoring Elderhood, where together we work through our adolescent years and we journey back and we give ourselves the rites of passage ceremonies that we didn't have, and we work with shamanic modalities to access our inner girl and our inner teenager, and to do the work of soul mending that's required for us to step fully into our womanhood. This then has the knock-on effect of restoring our elderhood as we journey on the map of womanhood towards our own elder years, because traditionally in villages there was a strong relationship between the elders and the youth, and menarche and the teenage years and the journey to adulthood is a mirror of menopause and the menopausal year, the midlife years, and the journey to elderhood. And menarche and the journey to adulthood is the journey from the inner to the outer and the spiritual quest to find out who you're becoming. Menopause is the journey back within to to become the elder, to embody the wisdom and to go back inside and to become the elder that's needed for the village to leave your legacy. So part of the work that we've been doing is this restoring of elderhood for the regeneration of culture, and it's not very often that we get to really hear from the true elders of our villages, as it's a rare thing to experience the holding of elders. And so what I wanted to do was create this podcast for this time on Earth, this time of the Great Awakening, where the global family of the younger generation, or for anyone, but this is for our future generations, can hear the voices of the global elders to help them to navigate this time on Earth. So just as the elders would hold the ceremonies for the young people stepping into adulthood, from that contraction of the cocoon of the teenage years, this dark night of the soul, that's the teenage years, they would have the holding they needed through the ceremonies to let that profound death experience, the dying of all that was before their childhood, as they step into the expansion and the rebirthing of themselves into adulthood. What I feel is needed at this time of Earth is we're moving through a huge dark night of the soul, a huge collective initiation, and we're coming into the expansion of the rebirthing and the resurrection of ourselves as a human species. And I feel that it's really important that we hear the voices of the elders at this time, especially the younger generation, because as we move through this collective initiation and this rites of passage, this dark night of the soul, there is a lot of chaos, a lot of trauma coming up, and a lot of soul loss happening, because it's the journey, the spiritual journey. We're on like an inner vision quest, if you like, to expand into this new Earth that's coming, this great awakening, this great turning, and it's within. So when we're in the cocoon of adulthood. Of teenagerhood, we're in this cocoon like a caterpillar that's become a liquid in a cocoon before you get your adult soul wings, if you like, so you can fly as a soul in this life and really give of yourself to life and to receive from life through this understanding of yourselves as a soul through the path of the heart. We are experiencing that time, if you like, of in the cocoon. It's that liminal place that we're in. It's like, you know, it's that great unknown, and within that chaos of that dark night of the soul, we're changing form, if you like, and we're needing some guidance around how to grow our new earth soul wings, our the soul wings of the resurrection of the human race, as we let go of the power over paradigm that's been the dominant culture. And with this dark night of the soul, with this chaos and with the trauma and the personal initiations that are happening, I can see within my own shamanic practice that there's young people coming to me who are trying to self-initiate, and what they're doing is they're looking for, which I did when I was young, you know, they're on a spiritual quest, and it's that with this great awakening, what's happening, I see, is that there's a distortion in spiritual teachings and in shamanism and in ceremonies. And I totally believe that everything is in perfect design. Like, the universe is unfolding just as it needs to be, just as it's meant to be. I really believe that, and I really believe that everything's perfect in the great big design of life, and we're held in every moment, and we're a soul on our journey, and everything that we experience is for our soul's growth and our evolution of consciousness. And so there isn't anything wrong. Everything is perfect on one level, but I also see that there is a need for the elders to speak to this time on earth, so that there can be some guidance when we are choosing the ceremonies that we feel we need, when we are choosing the teachers, when we are choosing the plant medicine, when we are moving through our initiation, and how to integrate the experiences that we're having. We also need to hear about death and about conscious living. So through conscious death experiences, we can truly live in a more conscious way. But this requires a lot of holding, and it requires integration, and it requires understanding about what trauma is, what soul loss is, and what is happening when we have out-of-body experiences, what is happening when we move through our initiations, what happens when we're self-initiating and we haven't got the holding of the elders and the shaman in a good way. So I just want to speak on, to start with, what my elders told me. I'm shamanica trained for 25 years, and I've had many teachers. Most of my teachers were women, and they were older women. The youngest they were was like 50. Some of them were like in their 70s. And I'm eternally grateful for those teachers, because even though I was born, my path in life was always destined to be a shamanka. I don't use that word very much because that's not my preference, but I've always had abilities of being able to dream. I've always had visionary experiences and prophetic dreams, and the ability to travel out of my body. And so I needed some guidance and holding. I needed to be shown safe ways of doing these things, and I needed to be held within the trauma that was coming up as I tried to heal try to heal so that I could feel my soul, and to allow myself to fully express myself in this life. And so I just want to explain to you what my elders told me about what happens when we have out-of-body experiences. I've had training in lucid dreaming and astral travel, shamanic journeying, and I've also had a near-death experience. I've had a shared death experience, which is like a near-death experience, where I went to the afterlife. And so I want to speak a bit about this, because I can see when people are coming to my healing practice that there's a lot of there's a contraction or a stuckness, soul loss that's happening from some of the ceremonies that the young people are participating in. So some so it's not a criticism. I totally see the benefit of these ceremonies and the growth in spiritual practices and shamanism and plant spirit medicines. But within that, there needs to be discernment when you're choosing a teacher, when you're drinking medicines or any substances, and so that you can feel called to the right action that's needed for you, to the right teacher, to the right ceremony, and to know when it's not being held in the way that's needed for this expansion into the rebirthing and the integration of the experience, and when something's creating more trauma and contraction and getting stuck in badly initiated experiences, or not making it fully through the initiation, if you like. As I said, there's perfection within that, but I'm creating this podcast, this platform for some of the elders that are highly experienced and trained to be able to hold this space for the younger generation. Sorry if you can hear my dog in the background growling. So my elders explained it to me as I was doing a lot of ceremonies, and I was doing a lot of psychedelics in my younger days and ceremonies, and I found my way to some teachers that were teaching lucid dreaming and astral travel. And so that was the beginning of me starting to understand these experiences I was having out of my body, from the place of doing it in a safe way that had complete understanding of what was happening to me when I was out of my body. And actually it changed my life, because I decided that my path was to find ways of going out of my body without ingesting anything, and that what I wanted to have was an ability to do that without having to ingest anything. And that's just my preferred, that was just my actual, it wasn't my preferred choice, it was my inner guidance, it was where my path has been led me to. And so what they explained to me, so as a woman who has understanding and experiences of going out of her body, this is the experience that I was having, and wanted to change it so that I could be more conscious. So when we go out of when we ingest substances, or we have out of body experiences that aren't conscious, I'm not saying that all plant spirit medicine journeys or shamanism is unconscious. I'm saying when we have these experiences that aren't conscious, as in they're not held in a good way, this is what's happening. So it's like a window where you're like opening the window, wow, and then the window closes again. You're opening the window, wow, closes again. You're opening the window, closes again. So it's not an experience where you're fully conscious out of the window, and you're not fully conscious still in your body. So really, you're not going out, you're going within. But that's a whole other teaching. I'm just explaining to you on a level that people can understand. So if you're going through the veil, if you like, even though there's no veil, the veil is just the mind. But if you're wanting to experience ceremonies and medicines to go beyond the veil and allow yourself to experience heaven or other realities, or to heal, whatever it is, if it's not held consciously, then when you open that window or you go beyond the veil, you're just having a glimpse in for a moment, and then it's coming back, and you're in your body again. And what that does is it creates a situation where you're neither fully conscious there and you're not fully conscious here. You're somewhere in between. You're in that liminal place of between the worlds, and it can create a distortion, because you you are not fully in your body, you're not grounded, and at the same time you're not fully with your soul, because when you feel yourself through the veil, what you're doing is you're being in your soul, fully in your soul. So when you're in your body, you're fully in your body, and you're a soul embodied in your body. When you have an experience of going out of your body, what you're doing is you're becoming aware, more aware of yourself as a soul. And you can travel from that place, but if you're not fully conscious that you're there, you're having a half experience. And what that does, it creates a distortion, it creates a twisting between those two realities, if you like, that then cause a distortion within you, which is complete ungroundedness and the inability to come fully back in. And at the same time, because you're not conscious of yourself as a soul, you're experiencing soul loss or fragmentation, because some parts of you will get stuck in that experience because you can't find your way back in, or the experiences that you're having when you go out of your body are difficult experiences because you haven't cleared the trauma in your psyche. So you will face things that your psyche will bring to you, your subconscious, to be resolved. So it's basically dreaming awake, but you know, just like in your dream you can have a nightmare, and there's ways of working with that nightmare in terms of your psyche and your subconscious for the purpose of healing. So basically, to have a conscious experience of going out of your body, or a conscious shamanic experience, what you need is someone to guide you and to hold a space for you when you're there, when you're fully in your soul and what you're experiencing in your soul, so that you can be conscious in your soul as much as you are conscious in your body. So this reality that you experience from this place of your body is this ecosystem of Gaia consciousness, and it's the oneness of this ecosystem, and it's completely aware of itself. Like the trees, the plants, the rocks are all completely aware of each other, and they work together as a conscious ecosystem in harmony and balance. And we are a part of that system. We are that system. We are that conscious ecosystem of Gaia. And how we live without separation, and we come back into alignment as the human in this life, is that we merge, bring our awareness back to the merging of ourselves as this conscious ecosystem of Gaia. And that's the shamanic way, and that's the natural state of all of us, and we're finding our way back to that. But there's also the conscious ecosystem of souls, which is heaven. And when we're aware of the conscious ecosystem of souls, or heaven, we are able to live this life seeing the world through our soul eyes. So we see the world through heaven. We see the world through the higher perspective. And we just don't have awareness that we're always in heaven. So that this is what I'm saying, that there's no veil. The veil is just the mind. So when we try to self-initiate into that state of being, of bringing ourselves back to that awareness, which is what most ceremonies and medicines and healings are about, what we need is someone to help guide that journey for us, someone who's extremely experienced in their soul, knows their soul really well, and knows how to be conscious in that experience of being out of your body, and is conscious of their own consciousness, if you like. And also the trick is that, well, the necessity is that when we come back into our body, if you like, which isn't really coming back to our body because we're always there, but when we come out of the experience, we need to be fully embodied as a soul in human form. And so you can see that this like window that's opening and closing all the time without any conscious awareness creates fragmentation, because you're not fully in your body and you're not fully out of your body. You're in this kind of in-between state, which is which is like the dark night of the soul. It's a traumatic place to be because it's the sort of incomplete initiation, if you like. And so with this distortion of spiritual teachings, because of consumerism, because of the need for people to make money, which obviously we need to make money, and I charge for my time. What we need to be careful of is that we are, we're choosing people to hold us from the place of understanding of what it takes for a shaman, or what it takes for someone to hold ceremony. It's like, I'm not saying necessarily that you need years and years of training, but you certainly need a lot of experience in the in your soul, so that when you're traversing into the lucid dreaming, astral travel, or ceremonies, that you know where you are, and the shaman should be traveling with you, or holding the space for you to travel consciously and then to come back into your body consciously. So yeah, what's happening in my spiritual practice is I'm having young people come to me who haven't come fully back into their bodies and are experiencing more trauma because they've become more fragmented from the terrifying experience that they had, because either it wasn't held, the terrifying experience, it needed bringing to consciousness, or the healing, which could be the terrifying experience, wasn't fully integrated afterwards. And it can take a long time, years, to integrate an experience. And that's why these ceremonies were always done in the village. That's why these ceremonies were always done between people who knew each other really well. So these tribal cultures that had these ceremonies were a village, and they knew each other, and they were together, and there was time for integration. And so the reason why I've started this podcast is because I feel that we need some of these elders from these cultures to speak to this time of awakening, which is incredible, to speak to this dark night of the soul that we're experiencing, and to speak to this spiritual awakening and these self-initiatory practices that people are paying for, because they're not being held in the way that needs to be held. Because how do we hold them in a good way if we don't have an intact village or a healthy culture? How do we integrate the experiences that we're having if we've just paid a shaman for the weekend and then we never see them again? So this is the questions that I would like the elders to speak to. So I'm going to leave it there, what I'm saying. There's a lot more I could say because I've had a lot of training, but I'm going to leave it there. And so I'm going to let the elders speak of this. So we're going to create an online village. That's why I've called it Mending the Soul of the Village, for a platform for co-creating the village between the elders and the younger generation, as a healthy way of integrating this initiatory awakening that's happening on the earth, so we can all step towards our resurrection and our rebirth in a good way. So thank you for listening, and please subscribe to this channel and share this channel so we can create this platform for the next 7 generations, that will always be there for the next 7 generations to access. The first elders that we have is the beautiful Omrock Sapper and Pat McGave, Woman Stand Shining. So please subscribe and listen in and share this podcast. Much love to you.